Maybe you should go and do some contemplating.
Right reasons, right reasons. Being pretty girl for all the right reasons. Right reasons, right reasons. Being pretty girl for all the reasons.
I'm the Bachelorette, and I'm rapping to you poolside. Here to find true love.
Hi, this is Rachel McElroy.
Hi, this is Griffin McElroy.
And this is Rose Buddies.
It's a podcast where we talk about the latest and greatest in flowers. What if, though? Like, you ever think people stumble on our name on the podcast charts and they're fucking nerd-ass florists? And they're like, I'd love to learn some new techniques to grow some new beautiful blooms. And they tune in and they get so disappointed. Idiots.
This is a podcast where we talk about The Bachelor,
Hey,
Bachelorette.
if you're a florist and you're listening to this podcast, fuck off. This show isn't for you. I'm sorry to come at you so aggressive.
What if you're a florist that also likes The Bachelor?
There's one florist that likes The Bachelor, and it is the florist that provides all of the roses and beautiful blooms for The Bachelor. Otherwise, they're too busy. I don't have time for this as a florist. In their 1-star review of Rose Buddies, I'd love podcast. I don't know where to quite begin with tonight's episode.
Really have to fill in the missing pieces of this
It's like a dog came and bit the episode right by the binding and shook it violently so that every third page flew away Bart's nightmare style. I've never fucking quite experienced... I've been watching my new, jam. We've watched so much TV since we've had Henry, it's kind of criminal. And my new jam when I have to get up at 3 a.m. and chill out with him for an hour until he falls back asleep is Twin Peaks. Another, bizarrely enough, I made this point to you, I can't believe this was an ABC product. It is the only, there's a lot of comparisons, I felt like, watching this episode of The Bachelor and Twin Peaks in that, why is anybody here doing anything? Because I feel like every other scene has been deleted for some reason.
I made a more historical joke.
Please.
As we were watching, I thought, seems like there's a lot of missing footage here. It reminds me of the Watergate tapes.
Of the Watergate. Everybody remembers the Watergate tapes.
And then I had to have Griffin...
Googled it, because I didn't quite remember the Watergate tapes. I remember that there's something weird going on there. I think we can all agree, Watergate... Nobody's quite sure exactly what happened in the room. And I feel like a lot of people passed. I wasn't alive then, obviously. And old tricky slick dick.
And I wasn't either, by the way.
No, I know. I didn't mean to make it sound like you did. But I'm saying slick dick. A lot of people jumped down his throat like Mr. Frost, the British television man from the movie. And it's like, give him a chance.
Okay.
This episode of The Bachelor had so many twisties and turns and also dates that lasted in between the span of a commercial break, from one commercial break to the next. I can't believe the things that happened. It was the most oddly produced 2 hours of television I've ever fucking seen in my life.
I was telling Griffin, it wasn't like there was a lot of chaff here. It wasn't like there was stuff that I was like, oh, you know what you should have done? You should have taken that out, and then there would have been more room.
Yeah, there was no dearth of good footage to be used, and there were a lot of uncomfy scenes that happened. And a big thing I saw in I was all up in the Facebook Live threads this week, actually to a fault, because I had to go back and rewatch a scene because I was too busy paying attention to everybody's good goofs. I wasn't watching the show. Sorry, I'll get better. But everybody was saying oh man, this person's getting a weird edit. This person's getting a bad edit. This is a bad edit. This is a weird edit. I don't think most of those were true. I think most of this was they had some pretty buck wild footage that they had to use. There was definitely enough stuff here. It was just things would happen that just weren't fucking shown. And there were these enormous tonal shifts that just came out of the fucking blue that changed the whole course of the season. To wit, we lost half our women this week. Where'd they go? Where'd half our women go? There were 12 of them. Now there's 6 of them. I don't know, man.
You want to get into it?
I'm ready to get the fuck into it because I just put our baby to sleep and I made a face at you when I walked out of the bedroom after I put him to sleep. No, this one ain't gonna take. So I think let's get while the getting's good.
So I said that there wasn't a lot they could have cut out, but there definitely
Scratch that.
was.
Yeah, the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, so it started with our cliffhanger from last week of Corinne and Taylor on their 2-on-1. Taylor's just been eliminated, but she's back to tell Nick some real truths about Corinne.
A lot of people said we were too hard on Taylor last week, which I get. Compared to Korn, fine. Yes, there was some gross stuff happening last week, definitely, and I will. I think we mentioned as much in the last episode, but
Well, and I definitely felt bad for her at the beginning of this episode.
yes, and that's what I wanted to get to is I don't think Taylor's a bad person. I just think this is once again another person who is put into these completely arbitrary archetypes that the producers of the show feel must fucking exist in order to put this show together. And so she was brought in as the fucking dragon slayer.
Yeah, they show her Terminator style, walking up towards the date.
Yes, it was weird that she was cast as the foil to Korn, who's a very good villain. And Taylor didn't really have I don't know. She didn't really know how to pull off this performance as the person who would take down Korn, especially not at the beginning of this episode where she was supposed to march into the room and make these demands. This whole scene just fucking flopped, man.
And Griffin made the point, and it's true. This whole dynamic is so produced that when they come to take Taylor's suitcase from the hotel room, indicating that she has been eliminated, the rest of the women are like, yeah, it seems about right.
Yeah, the women didn't seem to. Here's the thing, and this is exactly the kind of shit I'm talking about. I have no fucking clue how the women in the house feel about Korn right now, which is crazy. She's the villain. I don't know how fucking people feel. In the bloopers for this week, it was Jasmine making all the women eat super dark chocolate and getting their yucky face reactions to it, and Korn was one of the women, and everybody was laughing and having a good time with Korn and just palling around and joking around. It was if she was really the villain, I don't think she would be persona non grata in the house. I also have no idea how the women feel about Taylor outside of a few of these little one-on-one interviews. I don't know what the fucking the status is with these women in the house. And so when it cuts to the women saying oh yeah, I guess I'm not surprised Taylor's going home. Really? You're not surprised that he's keeping Korn in the house? That was your whole through line last week. If he keeps Korn, I'm through with him. But now that's not even going on anymore. There's entire fucking story beats that are just popping up out of nowhere and disappearing, and it feels weird to talk about The Bachelor like this, but it's kind of hard to follow a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Taylor shows up and says, I think Corinne made me really come across as a bully, and I'm not a bully. And, I'm not the only one that has issues with her. You'll remember that Vanessa said, that she would leave if you were really going to continue with Corinne. And Nick's like, hey, I don't think you're a bully. Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
He said, I don't respect bullies, but I respect you. Anyway, You need to leave.
Yeah.
You need to leave now.
Yeah, and then he goes back to Corinne and says, yeah, I heard what she had to say, and it was hard. But, I let her know that nothing that you said to me impacted my decision.
Just nothing.
To send her
seriously,
home.
Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Yeah, and
the fact that they turned this into a fucking cliffhanger is it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and so that was kind of a waste of time at the beginning of the episode. And then we get a reminder that we are still plugging Beauty and the Beast this week on The Bachelor. And so it's time for what we think is going to be the cocktail party. And all the women get in this little, what I labeled a horse trolley. I don't know if that's what it's called. But it looked kind of like a trolley powered by horses. They show
powered by horses.
It showed up at a big mansion. And
was it a Surrey with the fringe on top? You know that song from Oklahoma?
I do. Maybe that's what it was.
It probably wasn't that. I don't think they were making a dope-ass Oklahoma reference.
It looked to me like a trolley with horses.
Okay.
And so we get a bunch of footage of all the women talking about how important this cocktail party is for them, how they really need to get time to talk with Nick. And then we get the ominous...
This is some fucking, pantsuit legs.
The footage of...
just walking very fast.
Some
and
shoes.
I was like, oh, here comes Chris to cancel the cocktail party. And you're like, how do you know it's not Nick? And I said, I made the great point of... Nick doesn't walk that fast.
It's true.
Really watch sometimes when Nick has to walk from point A to point B. He makes some choices with his gait.
And so there's no party. Nick knows what he wants to do. We go straight to the ceremony. At the ceremony,
Can we? We've never really talked about this before. If I was on this show, even if I was in fucking first place, I knew I was a front runner. If dude canceled the cocktail party, I'd be fucking pissed off at him. That's him literally saying, like, I don't want to spend time with you women I'm dating.
well, and a lot of women leave having never spent any one-on-one time with him of significance. And so when he cancels these things, it's like, you're sending me home because you don't feel anything with me, but you never gave me a chance.
And here's the thing. I'm okay with him doing it if, like, one of the women was, like, super shitty or something that week, and he's like, she's offended me to the point where I can't keep her here. I'm canceling the cocktail party because, of course, it's her. The women he sends home this episode, like, give him a fucking cocktail party to, like, rap with you, dude, and see if they can, like, mention anything about themselves and find purchase in your heart, in your fertile heart. No, he's just like, I don't want to hang out with these women I'm dating.
Yeah, like maybe if he had kept, say, Josephine at the cocktail party, she could have been like, hey, you know what I really like? I really like bracelets on a man. And he would be like, I like to wear bracelets.
I like Livestrong bracelets still. And he would be like, I also, yes, look at me. But not only that, if you're fucking Vanessa, and it's like, oh, well, I guess we're not hanging out tonight, bud.
Yeah.
It's a shit move. Like, I've never really thought about it that way, but, like, watching it this episode, I just couldn't help but think, like, it's kind of a shit move.
Yeah. I mean, the only time it feels good is if you already have a rose, because you're like, oh, thanks, now I don't have to stand around for, like, 4 hours before this rose ceremony. I get to go to bed early.
Or I don't have to stand around and get to hang out with the dude that I'm in a dating contest. Like,
yeah, but you know how long these cocktail parties, like, they go on.
I know.
Like, that's the reason these women are going home at, like, 4 a.m.
Actual physical, emotional, mental exhaustion played more of a hand in this episode than any other episode of the show I had seen before.
I have a lot of theories about that I want to get
me
to.
too, yes, absolutely.
So who goes home? So we got some real heartbreakers.
This is fucking criminal.
Josephine, as I mentioned, no big surprise. But Alexis...
Yes, Josephine, still a bummer. We gave her a hard time, but I think she had
I don't know anything about Josephine.
She had some really fucking entertaining bits during
what was her thing?
The history of breakup date. She did the fucking hot dog. She pulled a hot dog out of a book and ate it with him. That was her limo exit. Josephine had some funny stuff, but yes, the bigger losses we had were
Alexis and Jamie.
Fucking Alexis, Jamie. Thank you for listening to the show. You were terrific, and I think you got like a weird edit. Like, I think we needed more Jamie time because your stuff on the farm date was really, really good. But like, Alexis was consistently the fucking funniest person on the show, but relegated to the post credits blooper stuff, and like heartbreaking. Just heartbreaking. Just what a waste of like a really good
Alexis
contestant.
and Jamie were two of the most interesting women on the show, and now they're gone.
Josephine too. The three, I think, arguably like the three like most interesting people, like funniest people on the show. Boop, gone.
Well, Raven's still there.
Rachel's still there. I mean, there's still some. They're good women, Brant. But I here's what I also think is they may as well have just like fucking stepped out of the house, jumped into an open manhole, and fell through a portal into fucking Bachelor in Paradise, where all three of them are going to be fucking superstars. Alexis, like with Daniel, are you fucking kidding me? Alexis / Daniel, yes, that is what I need in my life right now. Please, 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 Bachelor, I need this.
So the remaining women are going to St. Thomas for some fun in the sun.
I feel like I said a bunch of different city names tonight.
Yeah, you said St. Charles earlier, which I appreciated being from Missouri, because that is actually a
that's
city
one of them, isn't it?
In Missouri.
St. Bernard. That's a doggy. That's not a city name. Had a lot of Le Fin du Monde tonight. Drank a whole bottle. I didn't even realize it.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I just poured this in a glass, and I was like, oops, it's all gone. Oops, all berries.
So Nick tells us when we get to St. Thomas that he loves island living, and he is wearing a sleeveless tee. and we get a real good camera angle of his hairy knee in the helicopter.
Holy shit, this angle. I posted a picture of it in the Facebook group because
Griffin loved that angle.
I get it. It's a helicopter. You can't get your fucking DP may not have been in the cockpit with you, but like you have to know when most of the screen is taken up by a big hairy knee. It's not good and it's not right.
Yeah,
you ask the man to please put your knee down so we can get this shot, please. The knee was bigger than him because of forced perspective. It was just a lot of knee. It was just a lot of a man's big hairy knee.
So again, we have Nick arriving in the plane. It actually wasn't a helicopter. It was a seaplane.
Oh, fun.
I apologize.
Gross factual error from us Rose Buddies. We have to issue a contraction.
He shows up. All the women run to greet him.
Contraction's not the word, is it? It's a retraction. Contraction's what you have when you're in labor.
Or if you want to save some time
if you
with
want to
two
say somewhere
words.
with 2 words, you squish them together. Mm-hmm. Who invented that? Who even invented that? The language is just so fun.
Joseph Contraction.
Oh. Wow, you knew it.
He did the part of speech and then also the
labor stuff.
The labor stuff.
Yeah.
He's a busy guy. All the women greet him at the plane. He then hugs each one, which I just like. I always note that because it just seems like such a headache to me.
I love this ongoing current. Like, you really do only have a set number of. You have a fucking like punch card, a Yogurtland punch card of hugs, and every time somebody gives you one.
Okay, let's say I'm standing on the dock, waiting in line to get Nick's 9th hug.
Yeah,
like that doesn't feel like anything to me.
That's why you gotta fucking make it special.
Got to get in there for number 1.
Well, no, I mean you can get in there for number 9, but maybe you go in and you give him just a little kiss right there on the cheek, and you give him a small, slow circle on the back.
I don't know.
It's because you don't like hugging anybody. You don't know all the fucking tips and tricks.
I don't like being somebody's 9th hug. That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's 9th is good. You can if you come in right there at the tail end, you can give him something to remember.
At that point, you can smell like 8 other women on him.
You don't worry about that. You got to make it special for him. You squeeze a ball.
Just one?
You squeeze one ball.
Which one?
You'll know which one in the moment.
Okay.
Depends on which side of his chubbies he dresses to. A lot of chubbies in this episode. I had to teach you what chubbies were.
Griffin said that, and I thought it was another one of his like colloquialisms. I didn't realize it was an actual brand of shorts.
No, I'm folksy as fuck. It is a shorts brand though, and it's a lot of look. And like everybody I know owns chubbies. Johnny has a lot of chubbies. I feel like.
No, that is true.
He pulls it off. I'm not saying it's a bad look. I'm saying the particular ones that Nick wore during the 2-on-1 date were not a good look, but whatever. We'll get to that.
So he announces after he's hugged all the women that Christina will be getting the 1-on-1 this week. And
Christina, I was so disappointed in so many people in the Facebook group because when he announced that, everybody's like, "Where's Christina? Who's Christina? Who's this Christina?"
I admit I didn't remember her.
How could you not remember her?
I don't know.
She's the adopted Russian woman, and she stood up to Korn and was like really mature and badass about it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. She just like
she's had a lot of really good conversations with. She's like becoming a frontrunner. She's doing really, really well.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. She just, like, she's not one of the biggest story arcs of the season.
I would argue she is, but okay.
Well, obviously this episode, for sure.
Yeah.
But in previous episodes, we didn't even see her.
That is fair. I mean, we didn't see anybody previous episodes except for Vanessa and Korn.
So she gets the 1-on-1. Jasmine starts to get upset because she hasn't had a 1-on-1 yet. Neither has Whitney at this point. And so there's starting to be some angst developing. But on the date with Nick, we hear more about Christina that I had forgotten or maybe never knew. Christina has 8 siblings. Her parents had 4 of their own and adopted 4. And then she has a sister still in Russia where she's from. And then we hear this
story, y'all. It got really very, very, very real. And also it came after fucking some shenanigans with Korn. There was a woman working at the place that they were staying at in St. Charles.
This woman named Lorna,
and they did a whole, like, she's a replacement for Raquel. Lorna seemed like a very sweet woman. who was
Clearly,
tending
like
the
a
corn
prop
and
for the
very patient,
producers.
but yes, obviously, like set up to get these few shots
Just
out
footage
of corn.
of Corinne ordering her around and saying
and
that,
it jumps from that to Christina telling this like genuinely fucking heartbreaking story.
Yeah. So she grew up in Russia and had a mother that, you know, didn't really have the means to care for her. And she would have just days where she didn't eat. And she tells this really disturbing story about eating lipstick because she didn't have any food. And she's only 5 or 6 at the time when she ran away and lived in an orphanage for the next 7 to 8 years before being adopted when she was 12.
And when she was adopted, the woman who ran the orphanage was like, it's either this or you move to a bigger city. And she said, things can either be black and white, or you can leave Russia and your sister and your family, and I think you can live a life with color. And it's like, man, this story, like, it's so easy to get really crass when talking about this show, and like God knows we've talked about this, like when people have like sad stories, how they leverage them for points essentially. With there was not a fucking fraction of my brain that was like, ooh, Christina really the most fucking heartbreaking
this
story.
was haunting. This was really haunting because the way she told the story, she wasn't even especially, I mean, she was obviously a little emotional about it.
She started crying there at the end, but like she was so fucking like, the strength that must have taken to like just get through it. The thing Rachel and I kept saying to each other like back and forth is like, how the fuck is she on this show? Like,
I know.
This show gets real from time to time, but this was like another strata. And it was like, I don't know. I feel like everybody is completely in love with Christina after this, because she's also really very great and very, very, very genuine.
Yeah,
A lot of people also gave Nick some shit, and I feel like maybe that was a little bit unfair because she told him this story, and he was like, well, I feel like you give my life color, so anyway, here's a rose. And it's like, I don't know what you expect from him. First of all, like, that's sort of his...
how do you react to that?
That's his whole thing, but the other thing is, like, how do you react to that? Like, if somebody... Imagine you being in that position, and, like, how the fuck do you react to a story like that, except to say, like, I'm so sorry you had to go through all that, but I'm so glad you're here. Like...
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, like, so many of the women on this show, you know, have a more, like, kind of traditional Bachelor contestant experience. And I was telling Griffin, like, anytime the women complain about, like, the champagne being too warm, Christina must just be like...
Cool, great.
Yeah, like, the privilege.
And the producers knew what the fuck they were doing, putting the scene immediately
right
after Korn's
Corinne.
like saying that her new Raquel, her nanny from home, is going to be jealous of her new nanny. Like, that's like how any of this works. Followed by Christina giving this like this heartbreaking account of her childhood. Like, the Bachelor, the producers knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, so sad.
So she gets the rose, and they have like a nice moment, kind of dancing with like a steel drum band.
Steel drum cover of Ave Maria.
Is that what that was?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I love the steel drum. It's a beautiful instrument. It's a versatile instrument. You get a bunch of them together, and like now that's what I call music volume 16.
It's always island time though.
But it has to be island time a little bit.
Yeah, like there can't be another song or another type of music that would include steel drum that wouldn't automatically sound like island time.
Well, I'm all for experimentation, whatever the fuck. I'm sure like Broken Social Scene probably had a couple steel drum players in it, is what I'm saying. What I am not saying is that we can get pretty buck wild with the Ave Maria in the all steel drum cover, although I say that, and it was pretty lovely. It didn't seem like the easiest song to dance to. Ave Maria in general is not really a fucking club banger, especially when performed by 100 steel drums, but...
Yeah, I don't know that there were 100.
There were 200 steel drums.
You might be overstating.
No, there were
a little
300
bit.
steel drums. Keep fucking stepping me. There were 400 steel drums.
So now it's time for group date.
All right.
Group date.
This group date is amazing.
It is the big story.
I will never forget this group date. I will never forget this episode for this group date.
The group date is Rachel, Raven, Vanessa, Corinne, Danielle M, and
Trudy.
Jasmine. Which means that there's another 2-on-1 this week.
2-on-1 is with... I can't remember. I can't even remember their names. Danielle and Whitney. Okay.
And Whitney.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like, really, guys? A fucking showdown between
Well, don't worry, because that 2-on-1 date is all of like 3 minutes long.
What?
They know you don't care. They're just powering through.
Then why do a 2-on-1? Why not do a 1-on-1
To
and
knock
include...
them out.
Just send more of them home at the rose ceremony. Like, you're gonna make me not give a fuck about 2-on-1s, which used to be like your big arrow in the quiver for like guaranteed drama. And this 2-on-1, guys, was a fucking joke. It literally lasted from one commercial break to the next commercial break. There are fucking cocktail parties that last 3 times that long. And this 2-on-1 date was like, oh, blink and you miss it.
You know, I didn't even think about packaging that into the rose ceremony, but you're right. That would have been a good efficiency. Like, don't do a 2-on-1.
Don't do 2-on-1.
Yeah.
You are devaluing what the fucking 2-on-1 is by making it this, like, this super, super, super short affair with 2 people that, like, we don't care if they're fighting. I talked all this last week about... If you're fighting, then you know a 2-on-1 is coming. These 2 women weren't fighting, and nobody knew who the hell they were.
No, and they were super...
The official Bachelor Instagram account posted a picture of Whitney, and it was like, fun fact, there is a woman named Whitney on this show. So they fucking know. Like, they know that these women... And again, I don't want to be mean to the women. It's like... It's hard to compete with corn for screen time. It's just like, you can't not show us these women for 3-4 weeks and then be like... And now a fight to the death? Between who? Danielle even had a 1-on-1, like one of the first 1-on-1s, and like we couldn't remember that shit.
Well, and I want to talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
But first, I want to talk about the group date.
The group date, the uprising,
The group date. So
the fucking revolt, the revolution.
he meets the group of women and he hugs all of them. I'm sorry.
I love you.
I'm sorry. I keep bringing this up. It's just, you know, there's 6 women on this date. So if you're the 6th woman that gets that hug, like
You got 5 other women stink on you. I did not know this bothered you so much.
I'm just saying, after you do a live show and you hug all those fans,
I'm just rotten with it.
it's just a
Got
lot of
fucking
lot of
Pigpen,
CK1.
PU stink lines coming off me.
So they are going to go on a catamaran, which
The boat is called the Cat.
The Cat. And so explain this to me, Griffin. I missed this. I wrote down the quote, but I
Okay.
don't know how it came up. They're all sitting around together on this boat, and it comes up. They're saying like chocolate, vanilla, and then Nick says someone likes their sweets. What were they talking about?
They were just doing like pick your favorites, and so it was like Halloween or Christmas.
Oh,
Which if you pick Halloween, get real. Like Christmas has better movies and snacks. And
but what were they saying?
There was just like Halloween or Christmas.
I know.
Vanilla or chocolate, and everybody said their favorite thing, and Nick just said out of nowhere, sounds like somebody likes their sweets. And it's like, I don't know who he was responding to. Are you talking about everybody? You can't ask a question between which of these 2 sweet flavors, which do you prefer? And then when everybody answers you, say somebody likes their sweets. You ask them a question about which sweets they prefer.
This adds to my theory that Nick is like a mom, like a 47-year-old mom. Secretly.
In just like a skin suit or something?
Yeah.
Somebody likes their sweets.
Someone likes
What
their
are you
sweets.
talking about? Do you like do you like would you say like Sour Patch Kids, or do you like, hypothetical question, and you have to answer me. Would you rather yes, would you rather have Sour Patch Kids, or would you rather have Mike and Ike's?
Sour Patch Kids.
Somebody likes their sweets. I can't ask you a fucking question, and then when you answer it, I'd be like, somebody's got a real sweet tooth in their fucking mouth. You asked me which sweet you like. Calm down.
You're so fired up.
Just this le fin du monde.
I know.
I'm riding on it. Riding on that good French wave. French? Belgian? What is it?
You got the European passion.
Got that European flavor, that heat. French Kiss, the movie.
So this is supposed to be a fun beach party. They're all wearing their swimsuits. They play a little cornhole or bagos, depending on where you're from. Nick does his impression of a drunk baby dinosaur.
This was very good.
Which was fun to see.
This is the best thing Nicholas will do the whole year.
Yeah, I want to see an animation of that. And he
also stands props to the manufacturer of this cornhole set, because during his impression he jumps up on the cornhole set and it does not buckle. That's good. Now that's a good cornhole board. I appreciate a fucking thick, sturdy cornhole board.
And then they're taking shots, and he says, "Let's play 3-on-3 volleyball," which means that it'll be 3-on-3 women, and he'll stand by and watch them play. And this is when things start to fall apart. Now, I have some theories about this.
Yeah.
The game gets kind of more and more hostile, and all of a sudden, it seems like the majority of the women are absolutely miserable.
It's like, guys, I'm telling you, I've watched this show a lot now. I have never seen a fucking revolt like this, where it was like a switch has been flipped and they were like, bump, set, hey, wait a minute, fuck all this.
Yeah, Jasmine, Rachel, Vanessa, and Danielle all basically start crying separately.
Korn walks away to like get a shot, and she comes back and like tries to jump up on him, and he's like, haha, and they have like awkward banter or whatever. Maybe that's what what set it off, but I don't think that's it.
I will tell you what set it off.
Please.
Here, and this is probably not even funny. It is just so realistic to me. Okay, they get on that catamaran, haven't eaten.
Yeah.
Get to the beach, don't eat.
Probably drinking on the catamaran.
Yeah.
Drinking on the cat. Sipping on that kitty.
Drinking shots in the sun.
I don't think you drink a shot. I think you take a shot. I'm just saying, what are you doing over there?
This is how you want to be.
I'm drinking a shot.
This is how you want to be right now.
Delicious.
You want to be like this?
I'm going to savor this.
All I'm saying, alcohol, sun, no food.
No fucking sandwiches.
And they are being forced to play volleyball for who knows how long. And they're not talking to Nick. Not a single person has had a solo conversation with Nick on this, what is probably at this point, like 4-hour date.
I think, yes. I think that is definitely what fucking activated it. But it was a catalyst to a bigger compound, which is all of them just being, I think, just a little bit fucking tired of being on the show. A lot of people in the Facebook group were talking about, like, it's almost like they all realize they're in, like, this prolonged love competition that is inherently, by the numbers, a little bit demeaning. And then you add to it this, like, kind of shitty gauntlet of a date, this decathlon of drinking, and it just like set everybody off. And like we'll talk about the rest of the episode, it does not recover from this.
Well, and here's another thing that I just thought of. Usually when on a group date people have to compete, there is the promise of more time.
Not that. It wasn't that.
No, what I'm saying is that was part of the problem. These women were forced to play volleyball to like no reward. Like, it wasn't like the 3 women that won volleyball got to spend more time with Nick. Like, so
Vanessa was like,
they were just forced to play.
Vanessa was like, I'm tired of playing volleyball for Nick's attention. Which is like, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Jasmine was like, why the fuck haven't I gotten a one-on-one? Like, everybody, poor Raven was like standing there with the volleyball. Like, are we going to fucking finish this? We're up 11-2.
You guys, this is my first time serving. I finally get a chance to serve.
I'm not like, this date went from fun in the sun, drunk baby dinosaur, to 45 seconds later, a full-blown fucking strike from these women who were like, fuck this date, fuck you and this show, we are done. And that funk hangs over the rest of the episode.
Nick acted like, so at the second half of the date, when it's evening time, Nick actually steals Rachel away first, and he actually uses the language, "Can I steal you away?" which I thought was kind of a fun reversal. And he kind of indicates to Rachel, like, like group dates are shitty. They're supposed to be shitty. And I remember the anxiety and panic attacks I had right around this time when I was on the show, suggesting that like this time of the show is notoriously awful.
And he's not wrong from a viewer's perspective. Yes. Rachel makes the point of like, I don't like doing this. And I was honestly thinking about leaving. I do not want to be here right now. And he says that is the kind of stuff that's giving me anxiety right now, is you wanting to leave the show right now. Like the candor of Rachel saying, I don't want to be here on this date with you right now, I would rather go home, was like wild to me.
Yeah.
These women are so fucking over it, and it happened in an afternoon.
Yeah. Which made it feel like we were missing a lot of footage.
It made me, not a footage, like it made me feel like something fucking huge happened. Half the cast went home this week. Maybe the women got clued in. 6 women are going. There's 12 of you. 6 of you are going home in this episode. Possible. Maybe that fucking got out to them, and they were like, "Well, shit. Why have we been out of here playing volleyball for 12 hours?
Yeah,
beach volleyball too, which is like so exhausting. Like, how are you supposed to get traction?
And
in
hard
the sand?
on the knees.
There's one surface on which it's okay to play volleyball, and it's like a soft lawn. If you're on the fucking
or
gym,
in a pool. That's fun.
Oh, God.
To play in a pool?
No, because then your fucking cousin Toby splashes water in your eyes and you chlorine in there. And it's like, well, I can't play anymore. I've got chlorine in my eyes, Toby.
Oh, Toby.
He's a fucking dick and a cheater. So I don't invite him to the barbecues anymore. If Toby, I hope you're not listening to this. But if you do, go fall in a well.
Well, he'd probably be good because he maneuvers so well in the water.
Yeah, he's fucking she's like the beautiful porpoise in there. I can't think of dolphins anymore. It makes me too sad.
I know. Hey, Griffin.
Yeah?
Can I steal you away?
Yeah, I guess so.
That sounded more like a horse than a...
It got throaty.
Tim.
Got some Jumbotrons here. If you want to get one on the show, go to MaximumFun.org/Jumbotron, and you can find out how. It's really easy. This one is for DW, and it's from Cesare, who says, happy birthday to my wonderful husband. I'm so glad we found each other for the right reasons, and I couldn't be luckier to be your wife. Thank you for getting me hooked on Rose Buddies and all other McElroy podcasts. I love you so much. Love, Cesare. Oh, you know what I love about this message?
The love in it?
There's so much love in it, but also it's a great little anecdote about somebody evangelizing for our podcasts to another person.
Yeah, please.
I love all the love. The love is great, and the love is excellent. And you're married, wonderful, happy birthday, DW. Like, it's all great, but it's also an example of good word of mouth advertising.
Yeah, please tell your friends.
Please tell your friends, tell your family, tell just everybody. You want to read this one?
Yes.
I have to move the computer towards you. Oh, don't unplug that hard drive, though. It'll corrupt my Premiere project. You got it?
So this message is from Mare Bear. It is for Nat Cat. And the message says, I love you so much. I miss being super weird with you in public. Remember that time the lady smiled at us? I'm so proud of you chasing your bliss. Why are you laughing at me?
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at this. Do you remember when the woman smiled at us? That's only happened the once.
I'm so proud of you chasing your bliss in BC, which I'm imagining is Canadian and not before Christ. Unless we have
so excited for you for becoming a time stepper.
We have a time traveler on our hands. But please come back to the frozen wasteland of Ottawa so we can make Coke floats and watch The Bachelor, AYTO, and Terrace House, or listen to Lonely Island in your hammock. P.S. What that dick do, though?
Excellent. Hey, you had to say that.
I had to say that.
Man, that is a good TV little full 3-course meal you put together.
Yeah,
you're gonna get all your vitamins from that. A lot of people have been asking us about Terrace House Aloha State. I almost feel like we should sit on it, and maybe we can do a little break from Bachelor between seasons, so we can do a little. Hopefully by then we'll have more.
Yeah, we'll have more episodes.
It's a shame there's only 8 episodes available now, but they're coming in hot, right? Like they go to the movies and see Fantastic Beasts, which I think only came out last summer. So pretty tight turnaround on these episodes.
Yeah, they're probably still filming right now.
It's much more different from Boys and Girls in the City than I was expecting. But it's still got that tone that is unparalleled. Still love it.
Yeah, food's not quite as good.
Just stop eating fucking pizza every other meal. It's bumming me out.
But the courtesy is still
top
good.
flight.
So thanks, Mare Bear, for your
Thanks.
message.
The first ever Very, Very Fun Day is coming to Talia Hall in Chicago on February 11th, with media sponsorship from WBEZ 91.5. Advance tickets are sold out, but we will have a limited number of tickets for sale at the door. So come on out for a day jam-packed with 5 great Max Fun podcasts, 4 local shows, and a comic showcase. For more information, please visit MaximumFun.org/veryveryfunday.
So a lot of stuff happens at the end of this group date. Like, we see him talking to Vanessa, but we don't get any of the dialogue. We just get like a footage of their conversation with no sound. And Jasmine kind of slowly starts to melt down on this date.
I felt so. Jasmine was the one who, like, people in the group were saying she's getting really bad at it, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, y'all. No, like she was having a very, very bad night, and
Well, here's what I didn't like.
yeah,
So what they did is they showed her kind of complaining to the other women, saying, you know, that she hadn't had the one-on-one, that she wasn't getting the time with him. And what I didn't like was they kept shooting the women sitting there silently, looking bored and uncomfortable while she went on and on.
yeah,
and
that
on.
was rough.
That I didn't like.
Because I'm sure they were sympathetic. Because they're all going through apparently a big crisis right now, and Jasmine is the only one there that is going through it and also hasn't gone on a date. Like, Jasmine knows that she is, of these 6 women, at the bottom of the pack.
Yeah, she's got nothing to hold on to.
She's got nothing to hold on to. And so for her to, like, go through this, like, fucking exhausting, both physically and emotionally exhausting ordeal and not have the confidence of, we went on a one-on-one and it went really well, like, I can totally understand why she would be super upset. But, like, that being said, like,
things get weird.
Things got bad, and the things got bad because she, and again, everybody's probably very tired and probably hadn't been eating a whole lot, and like, I get all that, but like, she said some stuff, and
so she finally gets time with Nick. Nick is kind of pulling each woman away, and she finally gets pulled away, and so she decides she's going to tell him that she feels overlooked. She cries a little bit. And she says, you know, that she really, like, sees a future with him and really cares about him.
She seems kind of, I want to be careful with my word choice here. But she seemed like kind of like panicked, almost like she was talking so fast and so much. And it was obvious that she was like very nervous. Nervous isn't even the right word. She had been thinking about this conversation all day. And now it was here, and she was just running through it a fucking mile a minute, and it got away from her.
Well, and she also, I mean, most of the women know at this point that Nick seems to be interested in a woman that speaks her mind, and so she wants to be really candid with him and express her frustration. And she starts talking about how she just wants to choke him. And actually puts her hands on his neck a few times, and then starts talking about how choking can also be a sexual thing. And then Nick is kind of like...
She calls it the chokey, which is like...
And Nick's like, oh, there's a name for it now?
I mean, Roald Dahl came up with it. Like, that is definitely what the Trunchbull called the little chamber that she had in her room that she used.
Yeah, but that's not what Jasmine's talking about.
No, she's talking about sexual choking.
Yeah. And then it's like she kind of doubles down on it.
She quintuples it. She puts her hands on his throat so many times.
Yeah.
And it's like...
And he just looks so uncomfortable. Like, if she had the presence of mind to really take in his reaction, she would have backed out.
He's
right
literally
away.
saying stuff like, oh, I'm 0% interested. Like, oh, I don't want that at all. I don't want that even a little bit. And she keeps just saying, she just keeps going for it. She just keeps going for it and going for it and going for it. And there's a really rough, this is rough for Jasmine. This is bad. This is a bad, blame or whatever, producer intervention, whatever aside. Like, this is very, very bad for Jasmine. But there is some levity in the smash cut of her choking him and talking about sexual choking and him looking very, very uncomfortable, to an immediate smash cut to him giving it a behind-the-scenes interview going, my conversation with Jasmine didn't go so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of didn't go so well at all, even a little bit. It kind of actually went very shitty.
At some point, she says that, she can see a future with him, and he kind of pulls it back when she finally stops choking him. He says, you're talking about this future. I don't really feel the future that you're describing. Can I walk you out? And then she goes home.
And she immediately cools off. Like it's like she immediately, once she knows she's going home, it's like it almost seemed like a weight had been lifted off of her shoulders, and she was again very calm, cool, and collected, and just like, oh, okay, well, I understand.
So the group date apparently is over, and Raven has gotten a rose.
They don't show it.
Which Rachel says after the date is over. So we don't actually even see Raven get the rose. We just get the after commentary from Rachel. So now it's time for the 2-on-1, which blink and you'll miss it.
Seriously, fucking commercial break. There's fucking James Taylor doing his HEB ad. Congratulations. Well done, James Taylor. We're all very, very happy for you. James Taylor from JoJo's season of The Bachelorette was on a local, I guess, Texas-wide HEB ad. HEB is just a Texas thing, right? They don't have that other
Yeah,
places.
I think it's just Texas.
Happy to see him. He was there for like 4 seconds. It was on during the Super Bowl. Well done. And then it is off to the fucking races.
Yeah, they go, so it's Whitney and Danielle, and they're in a helicopter, and they're going to some island.
What was this? Where did they go? What the fuck were they doing? There's no say. All I know is that Nick was wearing his fucking chubbies.
It reminded me of Ashley, I, and Kelsey, in that it was like, we went to a location, my goal is to eliminate one of you.
They set that shit up so hard.
Well,
they
no,
set up
I'm
this
just saying,
rivalry so much.
No, I'm just saying the content of the date was such that like there was no activity.
We're gonna go to
we're gonna take you to a place and one of you has to stay.
A deserted place and one of you will stay. But it was we're gonna take you to a place, and then immediately he was taking them away for one-on-one time. And then immediately he had made his decision, and immediately he went to talk to the other woman to send her home, and immediately they left.
The same thing with JoJo. Remember when she brought those two men to the rocks?
Yes, but yes, the destination was the same. Sure, the fucking content of the date.
Yeah,
there has never been a date this fucking concise and compact before, because the producers knew The producers knew nobody gave a fuck about any of this.
Well, and this is when, and I don't think we were the only ones, because it seemed like they were trying to remind us. I had forgotten that Danielle had a date with Nick already.
Yes.
And it was almost like they were trying to remind us, because at some point, so he decides to send Whitney home. And so Whitney goes. And then he gets more time with Danielle.
He does this after having like a really uncomfy conversation with Whitney, where he's like squeezing her legs a whole lot and talking about how beautiful she is.
Yeah.
And then he comes back like 3 minutes later and sends her home. And we get the guys, like, seriously, setup of the date, travel to the date, no conversation with the two of them, just immediately one-on-one conversations, makes his decision, sends Whitney home, hops in a helicopter. We see the bags getting taken out, Whitney's bags getting taken out, the women's reactions to the bag. This happens in a 5-minute span.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Flying through it as if this fucking episode of The Bachelor had a 9:05 reservation at Buca de Beppo. Like, it was fucking soaring through this date.
And I wanted to say something in case you all were confused. Not all of you watch BIP. Nick appears to be wearing some kind of necklace, and I bet everybody thought like, oh, that's a terrible necklace. It's actually a microphone. When they're shirtless,
Yeah.
they make him wear this little cord thing so he can have a microphone. Then it's time for Nick and Danielle to have more time together. And this is when they're like trying to remind us about their date because we've all forgotten.
We also need to talk about how when we get the reactions from the other women, they say like, oh man, I can't imagine Whitney or D'Lo going home. House will be so different without him. Will it? D'Lo? You guys are friends? Because we haven't seen fucking any of it. You guys hang out? That's crazy because we haven't seen fucking any of that Bachelor.
So Danielle starts referencing their date. They talk about like, oh yeah, you know how it was in your hometown and we danced so much and dancing's like kind of our thing. And I'm like desperately trying to remember what they're talking about. I'm like, dancing? What? What was this date? And I'm not exactly sure.
You thought it was the Backstreet Boys date, which was, I'm pretty sure no.
When else were they dancing?
They bring out some fucking shitty musical act and then they dance and then they're in love. Hey everyone, it's tomorrow. Just want to let you know.
Or today.
Or is it today? Henry had a conniption, so we had to handle it.
And then we woke up this morning and we said, let's talk about D-Lo.
So let's talk about D-Lo, because I couldn't sleep last night thinking about how just intense and high stakes this date was.
Who did she dance with? Why did they dance?
Who did she dance with? What were we even fucking talking about? I miss having La Fine du Monde coursing through my body.
Yeah,
giving me power.
You were so hyphy.
I just needed something for last night's episode. I needed a booster pack.
So Danielle and Nick are sitting at a table, and they're talking about their dancing together.
Well, she's talking. He's doing a lot. This motherfucker, like, you know how when you spend a little too long at the beach and you get sunburned, and like that's your whole life whenever you're sunburned, and all you want to do is just kind of look pensively at the ground.
Yes.
That's like all this dude was doing, and I felt so bad for D-Lo because she knew she had to put on a top-notch, stellar performance during this date.
He asks her this question, like, what's important for you in a mate? Like, at this point, you can tell he's just trying to set up, like, how can I break up with this woman? Give me something to work from. And so she's like, well, trust and love. And she's like, wow, what would you say? And he's like, well, adventurous.
Adventurousness.
Raw.
Just raw adventure. I want an uncooked woman who wants to go hang gliding.
And then she says that she's falling in love with him.
And Rachel and I, both skeletons, jumped out the top of our heads, high-fived in the air, broke apart. Like, because I felt like it was obvious, like, 15 minutes ago that this woman is about to be dumped on television.
Yeah.
And once I have that realization in my gut flora, like, I just fucking cannot enjoy anything that happens next.
Yeah.
Because everything they do, I see, like, there's a part, she says that, and immediately I'm like, oh, this is going to go bad. And he, like, reaches out his hand and, like, takes her hand, like, fingers entwined, and I'm like, oh, why are you doing that, dog? Because you're about to send her on home.
And she's like, I know my hands. And I don't know, were her hands shaking? That's no good. The actual delivery, would you do the delivery of telling me that you're falling in love with me, and I'll do Nick's reaction, and we'll just like tell me, audience at home, how you think it went. Nick, I'm realizing more and more that I'm falling in love with you.
If you get a fucking captioned sigh in response to your fucking declaration of love, it stinks and it's bad, and it's not gonna pop off for you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so he says, like, hey, I really thought there was going to be something with us on our first date that neither of us can remember. But it's clear to me now that it's just fading out, and I just don't feel the way that you feel. And he sends her home, too. So that's 2. 2 on 1 turned into a 0 on 1.
A 0 on 1. It just turned into a 1. It turned into a Nick. Tell me about the date this week. The date this week is Nick. It's like when Kaylon, you remember when Kaylon couldn't find anybody to go? I think it was 2 seasons ago on Bip. This dude named Kaylon, whose whole shtick was he was a big Richie Rich dude. He had an entrance that I thought was pretty fucking ballin', where he came in on a helicopter. He brought his own
helicopter.
And he couldn't find anybody to go on a date with him in Bachelor in Paradise, and it was beautiful. He went like diving in a cenote, and he had like a picnic in the cenote. It was so lovely, and nobody would go with him, so he just had a little solo mish.
It was great.
It was. Yeah, this was what I think that's the end of the episode, right? Oh no. Oh god, how could I fucking forget?
No, Nick spirals in a big way.
Yeah.
He's like, this is the second time someone's told me that they were falling in love with me, and I couldn't reciprocate.
Who was the other one? Was it this season? It was this season, right? Or was he talking about
No.
Jennifer from BIP?
No, it was definitely this season.
It's definitely this season. I just can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Because Raven's the only one that I can remember. Rave. Apparently Jazz called Raven Rave, and Rave called Jasmine Jazz. Jazz and Rave. Jazz, Rave, and D-Lo. Who are these women? When did they come up with these nicknames? Please show me this. Please show it. Let's get to the end of the episode, because it really does. It gets out of hand.
Yeah. So Nick feels real sad, and he's like, what if my interest fades in all the women? You know what I should do? I should go tell them.
Go confront them with this horrible
So
possibility.
they're all sitting around real cash in like the hotel suite. Nick shows up in tears, says that he sent both women home, and that he's having some real concerns about whether this process is going to work for him.
He said what was heartbreaking is that he was super into D-Lo, and y'all knew that. Y'all knew how into D-Lo I was, but that relationship just fell flat and the love faded, and so I had to send her home, and now I'm worried that could happen with any of you, and I'm worried that this isn't going to happen, so I'm just going to leave. And he says something like, I'm just gonna head out, and leaves, and then all of a sudden all the women are like, is he quitting the show?
Yeah.
And the preview for next week is more of that, like women saying like, I don't think he's coming back. I think he's just gone.
This is like after the horrible beach volleyball date where they all felt so insecure, and Nick decides, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go tell them I'm not sure that
I'm not
it's
sure
going
that
to
I'm going to
happen.
fall in love with any of them, and then I'm just going to just bounce.
Yeah.
Nicholas.
Yeah, Nick,
You gotta bottle that shit up, dude.
You really messed up.
I know it's tough. I know it's not. I know it's an uncomfy position to be in, but you need to bottle it right up, and then you need to throw the bottle in a garbage can somewhere.
So we get a lot of teases for next week with a lot of the women being distressed.
Not corn, though.
Not corn.
Corn
no.
is what's the opposite of distressed? She is
horny.
horny, I guess. Yeah. This is when we get the my heart is gold and my vagina is platinum.
Yeah, she's going to take matters into her own hands and cheer Nick up next week.
Boy, I hope this show handles it in a tasteful manner. I can't believe I just said that sentence out loud. Yeah. It's just like, I don't want another fucking repeat of Caitlyn's season where if you bone before the prescribed boning hour, then that is what the whole fucking season is about.
Yeah.
And man, that season got very, very, very gross in a big way.
Do you think this will be a fun bet? Do you think they're actually gonna hook up?
God,
or do you
man,
think he's gonna send her away?
If Nick does, after this week, after the fucking Volleyball Uprising, he would be the biggest dummy. I don't think so. I think it would go against not anything about like his the content of his character or his ethical nature or whatever. I think he knows, as far as like image, him hooking up with Korn the week after giving this impassioned I don't know if I'm going to fall in love with any of you speech is going to like, it's going to look pretty good. It's going to look actually pretty awful, bud.
Yeah.
So I think he's too concerned with like rebuilding the Nick brand to like to step in it like this, you know?
Well, yeah, and to be fair, when he hooked up with Caitlyn early on, like it was after a night of like passionate, like
the fucking Cranberries played a private concert. You got to fuck after that. You
they
have
had
to
so
fuck.
much romance, and from the way it looks, Corinne just shows up middle of the night and says, "Hey, you up?"
Puts on a Cranberries cassette, but it's all B-sides. Who wants to hear that?
Sings the Cranberries herself.
Sings the
actually.
Cranberries. Actually gives him a bowl of raw cranberries. Yeah, I don't know, man. A lot of people were saying this episode was really bad. I don't know that I thought it was really bad. I think I enjoyed it more than most of the gross stuff. Not gross stuff. I think I enjoyed it more than a lot of the boring parts of last week. They didn't draw out a lot of Korn drama, which I fucking super appreciated. I liked this episode because it was completely fucking inscrutable. It was a fucking national treasure map.
It felt like an abridged Moby Dick or something. Like, hey, there's a whale and there's a boat and there's a lot of trouble.
Felt like a fucking Dan Brown novel. Like I was trying to connect the dots as I was going.
Yeah.
It was a wild episode. Really, not a bad episode, but a very poorly produced. Like this show is so meticulous. The
I
show is
know.
so meticulously made.
It felt like they brought in a different team this week.
Or like half the team was sick or something. Like I don't understand why they made so many of the choices that they made, and I'll never understand what happened during that volleyball date. We can guess until the moon blows up, but like something happened. It literally went from cornhole and fun in the sun volleyball to everybody simultaneously just like,
hey.
fuck this shit.
Hunger, booze, and sun.
Hunger, booze, and sun. I mean, it's a classic cocktail.
Yeah.
But to not... Nobody ever says that, though. Nobody is... the show doesn't say, like, I don't know, I think we're all pretty tired, and so that's what made us all get so frustrated with this. It was just like everybody... like this huge...
I think they made him play volleyball for 2 hours.
Probably. That would get to anybody. That was the episode, and I think we're getting out of the Badlands soon. Pretty soon we're going to get to... Who do you think Final Four is going to be? Who do you think we're going to... So we're down to 6 now, right? I think after next week could probably have 2 rose ceremonies, and then we're on to hometowns.
So it's usually 4 that go to hometown. So Rachel...
Right, I don't think he's going to break from that. I think Rachel definitely,
Vanessa.
since they've already talked about it. Vanessa, yes.
Maybe Christina, based on this week.
I think Christina... The other 3 women for the final 2 spots, I would say Christina, Korn, Raven, and that leaves out... Well, no, fucking Danielle. I don't know, man. This is a good final 6. This is a fucking great cast.
Yeah.
The women this year, I was telling Rachel, like, even at Final 12, I knew who everybody was except Whitney.
There aren't a lot of Whitneys this season.
Not a lot of Whitneys, and Whitney is the only Whitney this season. And again, I don't want to...
Nothing against Whitney.
Nothing against Whitney. It's just this show has a... seriously, nothing against Whitney. This show has a very bad habit of, like... casting a cast that is very homogenous, I think is a fair way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, just look at JoJo's season where all the guys looked exactly alike.
Looks exactly the same. And Ben's season, to an extent, I feel like I had a really hard time telling the women apart in Ben's season. Not all of them. Obviously, there are some great characters in there, too. But there was just, man, this was such a strong cast, which I can't get into that because it's going to make me even angrier that they wasted so much time on the fucking Corn Taylor bullshit. But... yeah.
Oh, I want to thank some people for sending us gifts.
Yeah.
So we got a little stuffed goat from an entity called You Goat Mail. So thank you, Cameron, for
Thanks,
the little
Cameron.
stuffed goat.
I like your business. It's just like, here's a goat.
Here's a goat.
Now you have a goat. It's like, whoa, wild.
And then we got a variety of things, including a little D&D themed Hawaiian shirt for Henry.
Yeah.
That was really cool. That was from Zach and... How would you say this name?
Oh, boy.
It looks like R-O...
Ray? R-A-E? Or R-A-C? Or R-O-C? Rock, rack, Ray, or rake. Boy, we're so sorry. The legibility, we're having legibility issues. And I'd say we'll split the blame on that 50-50. But thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's so
and then
cute.
I also wanted to thank Hannah and Tanner. They invited us to their wedding and sent us their very lengthy, beautiful love story.
Yeah, they sent us their own
It
How I
was
Met Your
very
Podcast
sweet.
host.
Yeah, we will not be going to your wedding
We
in
can't
Florida.
go to the wedding, unfortunately.
But thank you.
But thank you very much for the invite. It's very sweet. And thank you all to everybody who sent stuff. It's P.O. Box 66639, Austin, Texas, 78766 if you want to get in touch. Thanks to Maximum Fun for having us. You can go to MaximumFun.org and check out all the great podcasts there. You can check out shows like... Why don't you make the recommendations this week?
Oh, man. So I listen to a lot of Max Fun
Guys,
shows.
no joke. Every time I walk, like when I'm working and Rachel's hanging out with Henry in the living room, I walk in there, she's listening to a podcast.
If you like dudes talking to each other, funny dudes, Jordan Jesse Go, Stop Podcasting Yourself are good ones.
Flophouse is excellent.
Flophouse is a good one. Judge John Hodgman is a good one. I listened to One Bad Mother. I have even before I had a kid. It's a real good show. Congratulations to Teresa Thorne
Yeah,
and Jesse
she's had a
Thorne on your
baby.
baby, Curtis. And then, of course, the McElroy shows. You can find all the McElroy shows, McElroyshows.com. Really good political stuff coming out of Sawbones these days.
Yeah. And out of Monster Factory. Just very, very politically charged. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Till then, I'm Griffin McElroy.
I'm Rachel McElroy.
When you're ready.
Final rose. Stay with us on this journey of joy.
Spoiler alert.
She ends up with Soldier Boy.
Right reasons, right reasons. Take it for all 4 seasons.
Going into a Bullseye interview, I know it's somebody who does amazing work, but if it's an actual conversation, I don't know where it's headed.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. You said it actually better than I did, so I have to think about what that means.
Hey, this is the straight talk that you're going to get on this show.
Bullseye, creators you know, creators you need to know. Find it at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get podcasts.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture. Artist owned.
Listener supported.